The autumn of 1914 was a time of unrelenting horror on the Western Front. The First World War had descended into a nightmarish stalemate, where men lived like rats in waterlogged trenches, their bodies rotting from the inside out from dysentery, and their lungs seared by mustard gas. The once fertile fields of Flanders had become a graveyard, churned into a grotesque soup of mud, blood, and shattered bone. And yet, amid the ceaseless thunder of artillery and the screams of the dying, something far more sinister was stirring, something that defied the laws of war, of nature, and perhaps even of God himself. It began with the fog. On the morning of October 12, 1914, near the ruined village of Langemarck, the men of the British 1st Norfolk Regiment prepared to advance. They were not elite soldiers. Most were farmers, clerks, and schoolteachers, young men who had answered the call to defend king and country. Their commander, Captain Frederick Margits, a veteran of colonial skirmishes, had a reputation for cool-headed leadership, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to unfold. The night before the advance, strange reports had already begun filtering through the trenches. Sentries spoke of an unnatural mist creeping across no man's land, glowing faintly green in the moonlight. Some claimed to have seen figures moving within it, tall, slender shapes that flickered like candle flames. Private Henry Walsh of the Norfolks later recalled in his diary, "The lads are calling it the devil's breath. It moves against the wind, and when it touches you, your skin crawls like 1,000 ants are beneath it." As dawn broke, the order came to go over the top. The men climbed the ladders, their rifles slick with rain, their breath visible in the cold air. The German lines were silent, too silent. No machine gun fire, no shouts, nothing. And then, as the first wave of Norfolks reached the midpoint of no man's land, the fog descended. It rolled in faster than any natural weather phenomenon, swallowing the battalion whole in seconds. Lieutenant James Caldwell, watching from the forward trench, later testified, "One moment I could see hundreds of our boys advancing, the next. Nothing, the fog just took them. And then came the screams. God in heaven, the screams. Not of pain, but of sheer terror, as if they were seeing something no man was meant to see." When the mist lifted minutes later, the field was empty. Not a single body remained. No discarded equipment, no blood trails, just an eerie silence broken by the distant cry of a lone crow. The official reports listed the battalion as missing in action, but the truth was far stranger. German prisoners captured days later swore they had seen nothing. No British advance, no fog, nothing. Their own sentry logs confirmed it. No engagement had been recorded that morning. Yet the disappearances didn't stop there. In the weeks that followed, soldiers across the Ypres salient began reporting bizarre encounters. The Angel of Mons sightings intensified, not just the benevolent archer figure, but darker manifestations. A medical officer's journal entry from October 28 describes 3 men brought in this evening, raving about the harvesters. They claim to have seen skeletal figures in tattered uniforms gathering the wounded from no man's land. When the figures touched them, the injured men simply dissolved into mist. The Germans were experiencing their own horrors. A diary recovered from a dead Bavarian officer contained this chilling passage. "The Tommies aren't our true enemy. Something walks between the lines at night. Last evening it took young Mueller. We heard him screaming, then saw him floating above the trench, his body twisting in impossible ways before vanishing into the sky." As winter set in, the phenomena grew more brazen. On Christmas Eve, an entire French patrol vanished near Passchendaele. The only clue was a single boot found the next morning, filled with a black, tar-like substance that moved when touched. When a curious corporal dipped his finger in it, the substance latched onto his skin and began crawling up his arm. Doctors amputated at the elbow, but by morning the stump had regrown the same black growth. The man was last seen being led away by figures in gas masks who didn't speak. After the war, the mysteries only deepened. In 1923, a Belgian farmer plowing near Langemarck uncovered a mass of British equipment, rifles, helmets, even intact diaries, all perfectly preserved as if buried yesterday. But the soil beneath showed no signs of disturbance for decades. The diaries spoke of the singing fog and the ones who wear our faces. The most disturbing discovery came in 1972, when a construction crew excavating near Ypres broke into an underground chamber. Inside were 12 skeletons in British uniforms, arranged in a circle. Forensic analysis showed they had died simultaneously. Their bones fused together where they touched. Most horrifically, their skulls showed evidence of having been hollowed out from within. To this day, no satisfactory explanation exists for what happened to the first Norfolks. Military historians cite possible gas attacks or mass desertion, but the complete lack of bodies defies logic. Paranormal researchers point to the numerous supernatural reports from the time as evidence of something far older awakening in the trenches. Perhaps the most chilling clue came in 2004, when a previously classified War Office file was released. Dated November 1914, it contained a single sentence from an unnamed intelligence officer. "The harvest has begun. God help us all." The fields of Flanders are quiet now. The guns fell silent long ago. But on certain foggy mornings, when the light hits just right, locals swear they can still see figures moving through the mist, soldiers in outdated uniforms, marching in perfect formation toward some unseen battlefield. And sometimes, if you listen very closely, you can hear the faint sound of 1,000 boots marching in unison. And something else marching with them. What truly happened to the lost battalion of Ypres? Over the years, numerous theories have emerged, each more unsettling than the last. Some suggest that the soldiers stumbled upon a secret German chemical weapon, one so horrific that even the Kaiser's army refused to deploy it again. Others believe the men were victims of a natural phenomenon, perhaps a previously unknown type of electrical storm that disintegrated matter at the molecular level. But the most disturbing explanations come from those who delve into the occult. Ancient texts discovered in a Belgian monastery in 1937 speak of the Hollow Ones, entities said to dwell beneath battlefields, feeding on the energy of violent death. According to these manuscripts, certain conditions, mass casualties combined with specific celestial alignments, can weaken the barrier between our world and theirs. A recently unearthed letter from a French officer stationed near Ypres adds credence to this theory. Dated October 10, 1914, just 2 days before the Norfolk Regiment vanished, it reads, "The priests are whispering of old things stirring beneath the mud. They say this land was sacred to the pagans, that they built stone circles here to keep something imprisoned. The artillery bombardments have broken the ancient seals." The mystery didn't end with the war. In 1986, a group of British archaeologists investigating the site reported equipment malfunctions and sudden temperature drops. One team member claimed to have seen a soldier in a Norfolk Regiment uniform standing motionless in the mist before vanishing. When they reviewed their footage later, they found 37 minutes of static where they swore they had been filming. More recently, in 2018, a team using ground-penetrating radar discovered what appears to be a massive underground network of tunnels beneath the old battlefields, far more extensive than any known military excavation. The Belgian government has since declared the area off-limits, citing safety concerns. As we approach the 110th anniversary of these events, one question remains. Are the soldiers of the 1st Norfolk Regiment truly gone, or are they trapped in some liminal space between worlds? The few surviving relatives still receive occasional reports from Ypres of ghostly figures seen at dusk, of whispered voices calling out in English accents, of a strange green mist that appears and disappears with no regard for wind or weather. Perhaps the most poignant clue comes from a letter found in Captain Margot's personal effects, returned to his widow after the war. On the back of a photograph of his young son, he had scribbled what appears to be a final message. "If you read this, know that we are not dead. We are waiting, and when the fog comes again, we will march home." The fields of Flanders may be at peace, but something still waits beneath the mud. On quiet nights, when the fog rolls in from the North Sea, the old soldiers say you can hear them, 1,000 voices whispering the same 2 words. Nearly time.